Welcome to a personal update from On the Pen. On this channel, we share so much about the news around anti-obesity medications. Most commonly, we talk about Zepbound. And because I'm the man on the Mounjaro, we also talk about the diabetes version, which I'm on, which is the exact same thing called Mounjaro. But if you're new here to the channel, they're all a lot like Ozempic, right? Which is the one that many people have heard of. These are the weight loss shots that people refer to. I have been on these for 2 years, and my journey has been a little bit different than a lot of the content that you're going to see when you're scrolling around on YouTube or TikTok. I've struggled quite a bit. And some of that is because of the fact that I'm type 2 diabetic. I've been diabetic for I've been diagnosed for a little over 2 years now. And the clinical trials for these medicines show that people who are diabetic tend to, universally true for everybody, but in the clinical trials, and it's borne out in my life, people with type 2 diabetes really struggle to lose weight, even on GLP-1 medications, but they do help, and they have helped me quite a bit. So if you're looking for a dramatic story, there's a lot of those stories that we've actually covered here at On the Pen, like our friend Pug on Mounjaro, who went from over 400 pounds to now in the 100s in just a very short amount of time. There are some of those stories out there, but I do want you to know that whether you've lost a whole pile of weight and are responding to these medications in just a amazing way, or whether you struggle a lot, even with the medications, even with bariatric surgery, I want you to know that regardless of your journey, you always have a home at On the Pen, and we will always strive to provide an environment here that is encouraging, non-judgmental, and non-preachy. The disease of obesity is a very nuanced disease. It not only involves intensely biological things that even the most advanced medical science still doesn't fully comprehend, but there's a mental element to it, a spiritual element to it, a very real mental part, spiritual part of this journey. And you're never going to get judgment from me, regardless of this current status of your weight, the foods you choose to eat, nothing like that. You're not going to get that here. We're not going to ever tell you that you have to do things one way or the other, because we understand, because of my own journey and own struggles, that this is extremely nuanced. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm Dave Knapp, man on the Mounjaro. This is On the Pen. You usually come here to get the news, and today you're going to get a personal update. I'm excited to give you this update because we've been moving things in the right direction. I sort of recommitted back in September to really buckling down on my ketogenic approach to weight loss. Now, keto is a trigger word. It was for me for a long time. In fact, I spent the first couple of years on this medicine doing everything I could to avoid it, because one of the gifts of using a GLP-1 medication like Mounjaro, which I've been on, is the fact that it allows you as a diabetic to eat normal people food, for many, many people anyway. For me, certainly this has been the case, without the consequences of dramatic insulin spikes, right? Glucose spikes and then insulin to bring it back down. The better way to have said that, would be without massive glucose spikes. So I have taken advantage of that because I really felt like keto did a number on me mentally. And I felt like I struggled a lot of years, probably around 20 years, yo-yoing on keto diet. Because why? Because it worked. And I cover this in my book, which is launching this weekend. I would always gain back 15 pounds more than what I would lose on it. It always worked. And the interesting thing is, it always worked until it didn't. And even early on, when I started GLP-1, my doctor put me on a keto diet. He had me on one for a year. He said, keep eating keto. That's the best way you're going to see success with this. But, the fact that I struggled so badly on the ketogenic diet for so many years, I just let the medicine do its thing. And I was eating so much less initially that it wasn't a big deal to not eat keto. And so the reason that I ended up buckling down a few months ago on the ketogenic diet really has less to do with the fact that I thought that it was going to work from a weight loss standpoint. I was feeling terrible. I was feeling so tired, and the glucose spikes that I would experience on my CGM, and we'll get into what I've been using recently for a CGM, was showing some massive spikes again. And so I don't know if it's the medicine that is, becoming less effective at controlling the glucose. They would always come right back down, or whether it was just that I was getting too loosey-goosey as a diabetic with the carbohydrates. But I when my blood sugar spikes, I feel absolutely terrible on the come down. And that's why I think it's really helpful for you to look into a continuous glucose monitor, even if you're not currently diabetic. I know a lot of doctors who are out there think that this is hokum, but I don't, having lived the experience, because if you're feeling tired and fatigued, I felt for 2 years like I was dying. I was so tired. And finally, my wife was like, you got to go get this checked out. And thank God for wives, right? And so I went to the doctor and ended up finding out that I was type 2 diabetic, but I had never, ever, ever had high numbers for my A1C. And so I think it's just helpful to know how your body responds to the food you eat from a blood sugar standpoint. Big peaks and valleys can really have an impact on the way that you feel physically. And I always say that I felt narcoleptic level tired when I would get these blood glucose spikes. And that was sort of what was happening to me again. So I buckled down on the ketogenic diet and ended up seeing a big change in the way that my body responded to it this time. Now, I do want to say that in this whole process, something that I did change was I added a peptide from Can't Wait, called Can't Wait, from Integrated Peptides. Now, we've talked about this a lot on our channel, so I'm not going to belabor this, but this is a peptide that I started around the time that I started buckling down on keto again. The reason that I started it is because I did a deep dive into the patents on semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Ozempic. And all the active ingredient in here is it's a peptide that's extracted from yeast. Well, so is this, but it's a short chain peptide. And so it's orally bioavailable. So you can take it by mouth. It's over the counter. And the idea behind this is that it works on a totally different pathway. So GLP-1 medications are actually going to work on a pathway called incretin hormones. And incretin hormones do a lot of things. We've covered it on this channel extensively, and we cover it in the book as well. Another plug for the book. But it's just going to help you be more efficient with the insulin that you make to control your blood sugar. It works in the pancreas to stimulate the production of insulin when you need it. It slows your digestion and it makes you feel full. It acts in your hypothalamus to make you feel full. This is another pathway to sort of consider it like a stacking of different pathways, which is really where these medications are going. The next medication to hit the market for obesity management is actually called CagriSema. So you hear Sema in there. Semaglutide is the active ingredient in Ozempic. And cagrilintide acts on amylin, which is another pathway. So you see combining pathways. So I thought, is there a way, is there any peptides out there that are thought to act on, hunger that aren't pharmaceutical? And that led me to Can't Wait, DNF10, which is a peptide that works to downregulate ghrelin. And ghrelin is a hormone that is made in your body that basically signals to your brain that you're hungry. So it's thought to downregulate the hormone that makes you feel hungry. And this has been an absolute game changer for me because I have felt so much less hungry, which I think has been a stumbling block for me on keto in the past. Is I think I'm doing all the right things. I'm eating keto, but in the end, I think still consuming too many calories. And it's interesting because, the 20 years that I did it, I never had to worry about calories. It just wasn't a concern. I just didn't overconsume enough. But with the metabolism being what it is at my age and with my condition, the environment is just different. So we've got to kind of tinker with things a little bit. So I added Can't Wait. I also was always on keto sort of as a diabetic, measuring to my sensor, my glucose sensor. So as long as my glucose sensor wasn't spiking, I was thinking I was staying in the right range from a ketogenic standpoint. After doing some research, I realized that I probably needed to look a little bit more closely at what my body was doing with ketones. And so that's where I got this keto breathalyzer from Amazon, which has been super helpful. You just turn it on. It does a little countdown. Essentially what it does is it measures your breath for the byproduct of burning fat, right? So it's going to measure the ketones in your breath, and it's going to tell you how effective what you're doing is, right? So it counts down from about 30, you blow in it once. And then it sort of resets, counts down 10 seconds, and we'll do it again. I'll finish this while we're talking here, but I'll kind of keep moving on. So really honing in on how some of the foods that you may eat actually do affect your ketones rather than just looking at blood sugar. And that seems to have been a game changer for me to incorporate that as well. So again, I'm trying to incorporate all the things that I've changed that have actually helped me move the needle in a way that I haven't been able to move it in like a year. Okay, so now it's just going to do a readout, and it's going to tell me that I am indeed in ketosis and that my number is 6.8. So that's a pretty good number for ketosis. Again, you want to measure this in the morning before you've eaten anything. I'm filming this early in the morning. I haven't eaten anything today, so this is just what my body's burning for energy right now. So I want to get into where the weight loss is today. And then I want to get into some of the things that have helped keep me on track, because in the last month, of course, we had what? Thanksgiving. And with Thanksgiving comes all the Thanksgiving things, right? One of the things that we really enjoy around Thanksgiving for nostalgia purposes, which I'm sure people have all sorts of opinions about eating for nostalgia, but we do around here. So again, judgment-free zone here. My grandma used to make a Chex Mix that was just so delicious, and it's got all the carbs, right? And I make it every year. My kids love it. My wife loves it. I love it. It just makes me feel home. It's just this homey kind of feeling, and food has a way of doing that. I love food. I'm never going to sacrifice life at the expense of enjoying food, because I really do enjoy food. And I think that people with their head on straight do. So I think that, sorry, that was kind of judgmental. But some people can really get it twisted in their minds about food. And food is what our bodies need. Our bodies literally need food to survive. And so nourishing it is super, super important. But this Chex Mix stuff is amazing. Obviously carby. So as soon as I incorporate carbs, there's like a whoosh effect when I eat keto. There's a 5 pounds that comes off almost instantly within a couple of days, 5 pounds. But if I incorporate carbs back in, there's this 5 pounds up immediately too. And I experienced that over Thanksgiving. And we could get into why that is, but you can Google it just as easily. It's this, your body's actually just holding on to water, essentially packing the cells full of water. And so initially you're not losing 5 pounds in 3 days, and you're not gaining it in 5 pounds in 3 days when you incorporate carbs back in. So where I started on my journey, 319, that's my highest. That was what I weighed when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I white knuckled a year of keto with really high insulin levels, really high A1C. Got my A1C into check after a year, but I had only gone down to 312 pounds. Long story short, that's when my doctor introduced me to GLP-1 medications. So on Mounjaro, I started Mounjaro at 312, and at my lowest got down to 276. And then because of migraines and supply issues of the medication, I had to go off for a little bit, and I went on Ozempic. And I had been on the highest dose of Mounjaro. When I went on Ozempic, I gained back pretty quickly, all the way back to almost 300 pounds, 299 pounds, I believe. And so when I started this reset back in September, I was at 289. So we're kind of talking about from September of this year to today where we're at. And stepped on a scale today, 277 pounds. So I am down 12 pounds since September, the end of September here. And it's interesting because it actually equates to about a pound a week for me that I've been losing. And so interestingly, on Mounjaro, well, since my highest weight, I'm down about 13% of my body weight. And about 10% of that is on Manjaro. And then of the number that I've lost on Manjaro, about 30% of that has been adding can't wait and keto into the mix as well. And so we're trending down at a clip of about 1 pound per week since I started this reset, which is really good. There's been peaks and valleys in this. Again, that 5 pounds that came off right away. Then we hit the holidays, the 5 pounds comes back on. But I don't even bother when I'm messing with my diet and like kind of veering off the beaten path, when I'm trying to be focused on eating a certain way. I don't even bother really recording my weight because I know what's going on physiologically and I don't want it getting in my head. That's kind of my theory behind that. But essentially, about a pound a week is where we're at. And so I want to just talk a little bit about some of the things that are helping me stay on track personally, because keto is hard. It's like, there's no bones about it. It is a very hard lifestyle to maintain. Again, I'm doing it mostly. Now I'm enjoying the fact that it's working from a weight loss standpoint, but I'm doing it mostly because I'm diabetic and because it seems to be the best at making me not feel like crap, period. Right? People can like it does keep my blood sugars level. And there are people that are argue, well, that's because of this and blah, 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 blah. You're not really helping your insulin, blah, 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 blah. Like, and I don't care. I really don't care what you have to say about science, because science is confused half the time. I'm just going off of how I feel. And I feel so much better when I'm not spiking my blood sugar by eating carbohydrates. So that's where we're at. Okay. So what are some of the things that have kept me on track this time? Because it is hard, especially during the holidays. Now, you know that I had the Chex Mix, and I'm never not going to have potatoes on with a Thanksgiving meal. That's just heresy. Are you even American if you're not eating mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving? I would argue you're probably not American. That's not a judgmental statement. It's just a statement of fact. You're probably not American if you don't enjoy mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. But what has kept me on track here? So let's get into it. A couple things. Because I like crunchy things, on days where I have a few more carbohydrates to work with, I found these and I love them. I did a short video on these a couple of months ago, but these have been a game changer for me. They're basically like Pringles, right? They're very, very good. Here's the macros on them. They are, for a whole can, like 320 calories, but they're a very dense, crispy chip. They're not like super thin like a Pringle is. But if I want a chip and I want it to be kind of like really crunchy, like a normal chip, this is the way that I go. And there's going to be per serving, and there's 2 servings in a can. And you really can. This isn't a once you pop, you can't stop. Like, that's the whole problem with that kind of food, right? This is actually really filling because they're very dense chips and they're high in protein. So each serving, 2 per can, and these are a little spendy. Beware. I'm going to put a link to Amazon in the bio. These are expensive, but everything's expensive. Good Lord. So total carbs, 6 grams per serving, but then you're going to get 10 grams of protein per serving. So if you sit down and you do eat a whole can of these, you're going to eat 320 calories, but you're also going to balance that out with 20 grams of protein. So you get good bang for your buck on these. If I'm working with less carbs, because again, if you eat a whole one, which I will from time to time, but usually I'll just eat a few of them. And like this was from my pantry today, I don't usually sit down and eat all of them at once. But if I do, that's 12 grams of carbs. I got to keep them pretty much under 20 grams a day to stay in ketosis and to keep this thing happy, which is, again, a good reason to have one of these. It just helps you to know, like, can I eat a whole one of these, or does it completely derail my progress, right? Because if it's going to derail my progress today to eat a whole one of those, because maybe I had some more carbs with breakfast or lunch or whatever, this is a really good option. And I don't know if they have these on Amazon or not. If they do, I'll link it below. I get them from Target, and I can actually get these from Target too, off their website anyway. My specific store doesn't have them, but that doesn't mean yours won't. I live in Iowa. It's rural here. We don't often have a lot of the extra options that you might have in a bigger area. But the wild chips are very good. And these are actually made. So the first ingredient in these is antibiotic chicken breast, which sort of sounds nasty. It sounded nasty to me. I didn't want to try them. I ended up trying them because somebody brought them to something, and they're really good. There's different flavors. My favorite flavor actually is the salt and vinegar flavor, but buffalo works really well. They're not super chicken-y. So honestly, I think if you tried one, you wouldn't be like, that's chicken, or there's meat product in that, so which is not what you want in a chip, I don't think. So, a whole bag of these, you're going to get 210 calories, but the great thing is you're only going to get 7 grams of net carbs, and you're going to get 13 grams of protein in your 210 calories. So the 7 grams of net carbs, and the net carbs typically pans out for me on this. It doesn't always work, because if you're doing net carbs, like, brands have gotten very clever about that. This is strictly subtracting fiber out of these. And so if something adds a bunch of extra fiber in it for no reason, I don't subtract the fiber out. This is just tips I've learned for myself. If somebody adds a bunch of fake sugar to something and they're subtracting out the fake sugars, I don't subtract those either for me, because it seems like on here, I respond the same way, whether it's sugar or not. So kind of weird what that just did to the TV there. Did y'all see that? Interesting. Oh, it won't go away now. Sorry about that. Okay. The last one I want to tell you about, this is actually a new partner with On the Pen. This is Build the Body. I met this guy on TikTok. So the guy who owns Build the Body, it's a small business. His name's DJ. And DJ basically picked up his grandfather's legacy of inventing salad dressing, right? But DJ is a health nut, and DJ was like, how could we make protein salad dressing? Like, salad dressing, his goal was to make a salad dressing that has more protein in it per serving, 2 tablespoons, than an egg. So in one serving of this, you get 8 grams of protein. And the great thing is it's avocado oil based, very, very clean ingredients. So there's a lot of crap in a lot of the, there's a lot of crap in everything. There's a lot of crap in the stuff I just showed you too, to be honest. The ingredients list is not short on these things, and it's not easy to pronounce. But if you're trying to make some changes in that regard, this is very clean. Avocado oil, collagen, peptide, protein, lemon juice, monk fruit extract. It's just very clean ingredients. You know what you're putting into your body. That said, 8 grams of protein per serving. I've been using this. I really like the Caesar dressing. They do have a ranch. I have it behind me. I think you can try both. A little spendy is this, but you're not getting junk like you are at the grocery store. So you can check them out at buildthebody.com. I actually gave a couple bottles of these away on our live show last night. We do a weekly live show called On the Pen Live. It happens every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central. It was like our 93rd episode. We're giving away a bunch of stuff before Christmas here. Build the Body is partnered with us, so we gave some of this away, and we'll be giving some away on the next one too. But if you go to the episode that we just dropped and drop a little salad dressing emoji in the comments there, somebody's going to get chosen to win a package of this. Really good stuff. Build the Body. Use the code on the pen, and you'll save 10%. Right. So the link will be in the description of this video. Use the code on the pen, save 10%. Gives a little bit back to the stream as well. We also have a code for this too. That'll be in the description. OTP10 for this, save 10% on that. Links in the description for all this stuff. So yeah, that's where I've been sort of trying to stay on track, hitting my protein goals. Protein helps you feel full, but it's also just a good way to preserve your muscle mass. Make sure that you're eating good protein, getting some resistance training, getting some good physical activity, where you're just working on that, maintaining that muscle mass, because we don't just want to get thin. We want better body composition, and that's important too. What else? CGM. So this is kind of cool here. So I've been meaning to tell you guys about this. This is pretty cool. So Stello, I met these guys, Dexcom, at Obesity Week this year. We were down there. They sent me a couple of their new over-the-counter CGMs. So normally I use the prescription version of the Freestyle Libre 3s. And the Freestyle Libre 3s are, I don't know. I want to say I have a love-hate relationship with them, but I don't even know that I love them. These fall off me all the time. People are like, why don't you wear the patches? I do, but then they get gunky. I just don't like it. I want to put it on, and I want to I don't want to have to buy extra things. This is already, even with insurance, like $75 a month. So these are similarly priced, $75 a month, but the app, I got to tell you, it's much better. I'll show you here. So the Stello app has been really nice to use. And as a diet, you're not supposed to use these for diabetes management, by the way, but I do. The reason is because this has alarms and it's not accurate. So this thing will go off in the middle of the night, tell me that my blood sugar is at 50, and I'll think I'm about to die. And my wife will think I'm about to die. And then I go stick my finger. It's like 90. So and you can't turn the alarms off. It's like, baked into the sausage here. So that's really annoying, and they fall off, and they're super expensive. Dexcom came out with this over-the-counter one, again, not for diabetes management, but you can just go on their website and buy them. I'll see if there's a link that I can link these to in the description. No affiliate code on that one, but I found the app to be really helpful. So I can go to my, the last 7 days, 90% in target range, 1% above target range, 2% below target range. My average glucose has been 97. You see, your boy's been behaving himself dietarily. So yeah, I can go back out 14 days. My average was 107. Probably still, I think I put these on towards the tail end of the week that we were doing Thanksgiving. And so those first couple of days, probably wasn't behaving myself that good, but 107 is still really good average glucose for a type 2 diabetic like myself. I really like them. I mean, I think they're like $80 or something like that. They might give you some good insight if you've been interested. A lot of people don't know that they have these over the counter now. And so Dexcom has them. It's called Stello. I highly 10 out of 10 would recommend. I think I'm going to continue to buy these because it cost me about the same. I'm going to continue to buy the Stellos instead of the Libre 3s because these things just piss me off, frankly. So yeah, I've been meaning to tell you all about that. Maybe I'll do a deeper dive video at some point about that. But I monitor my blood sugar very closely. I monitor my ketones very closely, and it all is just good feedback to know that when I try different foods to try to stay on track. Again, this is not something I rely on, but when I need something, I need to know that it's not going to derail me. I need to know that it's going to do the trick, right? And I need to know that it's not going to derail me. And these are the things that I found that definitely do the trick for me. So that's the update. We continue to head in the right direction. We've got Christmas coming up. I don't typically, typically the temptation from a food standpoint for people around the holidays is sweets. I don't really like sweets. So cookies don't tempt me. Cake doesn't tempt me. Chex Mix tempts me. Things like that. Mashed potatoes tempt me. And these are all good foods to eat. Plenty. There's nothing wrong with these foods. But for the purposes of what my goals are, those are the things that are likely to derail me. But Thanksgiving was frankly a bigger hurdle for me. I sort of got the Chex Mix out of my system, and I've kind of found that for myself. Like, if I allow myself to try something, then it seems like it gets it out of the system. Like rather than just sort of white knuckling, and then going hog wild. I don't know. I'm not an advice giver. I'm just telling you what's working for me. So yeah, this has been a much longer video than I anticipated it being. So I wanted to give you an update. I hope it was a good one. I'm excited about the progress. I'm really bullish on continuing to use Can't Wait. I'm really bullish on the fact that this seems to be a working combination for me. The keto, the Can't Wait, the Manjaro, monitoring everything with my CGM and with my keto breathalyzer seems to be working for me. So tell me what works for you, especially if you're using keto and you found some little things like this that work. Again, I can't rely on this stuff, or ultimately I would not feel good. My body wouldn't feel good. And that's like, as a dad and as somebody who's like basically building up a GLP-1 media company and working a day job, I just can't afford to feel like crap. I really can't. I've got too much to do and too many people relying on me. So if you found something that works for you, let me know in the comments of this video. And if you've tried Can't Wait, I'm eager to hear. I've heard a lot of good stories from people lately who that seems to be working well for. And stay tuned to the channel because we're going to be doing giveaways, and we got the book coming up. And when it releases, I think I'm going to try to do like a really long live stream. And we're going to try to get this book in the hands of as many people as we can, because this book was literally, I wrote it so that you, as somebody who's using these medicines, can pass it off to a loved one. When a loved one goes, hey, how have you lost all this weight? And you're like, I don't really want to tell them I'm on a shot. Or you're like at your family reunion and you're like really excited to tell people about this medicine that you talked about. And because it's like this mainstream conversation now, people are like, have you heard of all of the women that stay at home and their husbands are super rich and they're just staying skinny on a Ozempic and drinking wine all day? And then you're like, maybe I won't bring this up. This book is designed to basically just pass it off to somebody who you would like them to understand where you're coming from, because I share part of my journey, which I think a lot of you are going to resonate with in some way. I don't think you live a life with obesity without being able to resonate with somebody else's story who has, right? So a bit about my story, and then it's just like, hey, here's how these medications work. This isn't phentermine. This isn't fen-phen. And even if it was phentermine, some people use it and it works great, but some people get worried about that because of fen-phen, which was the part of phentermine, or phentermine was part of fen-phen. And you just want them to know and understand the science behind it in a real approachable way. This book is that. And then at the end of the book, we have some conversation starters for if you are on the pen, you want to talk to somebody about it. What are some things that you can say to broach the conversations, questions you can ask, things you can say? Conversely, for your family members, there's some tips in there about how to interact with your loved one who is on the pen or struggles with obesity. So I'm really excited to get this book into your hands. It's been a true labor of love. And I'm just very, very excited for you all to have it and to hear what you all have to say about it. So until next time, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll do it again soon. We got the podcast drops on every Tuesday. So check out our podcast, and the live show happens every Thursday night. Until the next one, thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for bearing with me, a really broken vessel trying to talk about his fumbling his way through health. But I know that that's a lot of your stories. And again, regardless of how you respond, what situation you're in, what the scale says, you always have a judgment-free zone place to come here. You're always welcome here. And I hope that you feel that. And I know that many, many of you do. So thank you for being a part of the community. Until next time, thanks for being with me today.